today we are going to be focusing on what's next for MSPs and how to drive business during and after COVID-19. So my name is Frances Moore and I'm the newly appointed Marketing Director at Inbay Limited and former Group Marketing Manager at TaylorMade Computer Solutions and Peach Technologies. And I've also worked for an MSP called Silver Lining Convergence. So I've been working for the IT industry for about 8 years, and I have created marketing strategies across different industry verticals using a variety of different marketing channels. So I totally understand the challenges that you're going through. And I'm hoping really with the help of our guest speaker, Tim, and myself, that we can help you during this time. So enough about me. We have a lot to cover, so let's get right to our main event and introduce our guest speaker, Tim Walker, Managing Director of Aura Technology. I'm sure you all know, but hi, Tim. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Francis. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thanks very much for having me on the webinar. Pleased to be here. If I just give you a minute on me. So I set up Aura Technology in October 2017, having been MD of TaylorMade for just under 4 years. So I've worked with both Matt and also Francis before. Aura was set up really with the intention of being a mid-market focused MSP. We've quickly evolved that business through an acquisition we made last year of a business called Amicus ITS. So now about 11 million with a strong footprint in mid-market enterprise and also the public sector. So we've grown pretty rapidly. We work with Inbay, have a good relationship with Inbay, who provide a number of services for us. And I think I'll add as much value as I can today. What I would say is I'm not coming at this saying that we do everything perfectly around our marketing and our sales. So I'm not here to preach. I'm here to share some insights into some of the things that we've done that have worked and also some of the things that we've done that haven't worked, and that's what will hopefully add some value to you guys and girls this morning.
Definitely. Thanks, Tim. So if I move on to the agenda. So today we're both going to discuss how you can realign your marketing plans in line with the current pandemic. We're going to cover some quick wins during COVID, but we've also put together a structured plan for you, like a marketing plan that you can implement afterwards. And like Tim has said, he's going to try and provide some insight and some value into each of the sections. Just kind of tell you what Aura have been doing, what he's been seeing happen in the market at the moment, and just give that sort of insight. So if I move on to the current situation now, first and foremost, I want to make it clear that it's okay to keep selling. Like, being open for business means you still have to generate that revenue, and you don't have to feel bad about contacting businesses. I think it's more about how you position your sales and marketing efforts at the moment. So probably best to not call or email telling business about how amazing your services are, but maybe instead just reposition your message. So how can you help them during this time? Like and to be honest, you should feel proud that you're providing that value and you're still, working and generating that revenue. So I'm not sure what your take on the current situation is, Tim.
I think, I'm a bit of an optimist anyway, but I think this is a perfect situation to be writing a marketing plan, continuing to develop the pipeline. And I guess I sort of understand pipeline to be, there are suspects and there are prospects. The suspects being those early stage opportunities where you think there may be an opportunity for you to get in and sell something. A prospect being something that is much better qualified and that you've probably put a proposal into. And to me, this is about getting ahead of the game and actually building a suspect pipeline so that when things do return to normal and you're able to get out and meet people again, you've actually got a number of people to go and connect with. And I also think that you can keep selling in this environment. We've had deals that have come in since lockdown started, and we've seen also significant opportunities to grow our existing base and get people onto Teams calls, Zoom calls, whatever you're going to use, because people have got more time to be able to engage and to do that. And as I think I was saying to you earlier this morning, Francis, I had a call this morning at 8 o'clock with a guy we've been trying to connect for ages. Last time I saw him was a couple of years ago. The fact that both our diaries now allow us to do that means that we've actually got some agreed actions in place, and we'll do some business together in the next 3 months. And that would have been quite difficult to have arranged in the normal course of business.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you said, people have more time to reflect and start connecting with people that they wouldn't usually, because like you say, they've got that added time on their hand. They're, you know, you've got that captive audience waiting there.
Yeah, and I think it is a time to reflect, and it's a time to focus on the important but not urgent stuff that you never get a chance to do in your normal course of business. So what should you be reflecting on? Well, this is a great topic to start that thought process for people running MSPs to think about where their focus really is. Is it sector? Is it size? Is it geography? And actually then build a marketing plan around that, which is obviously what we're going to come on and talk about.
Definitely. And whilst we're on this slide, it's a good thing to mention that, you know, there are still sectors that are currently thriving. So maybe when considering, when you are looking at who you're going to market to, maybe just bear that in mind. Hospitality industry might not be the best to contact, whereas like healthcare, solicitors, manufacturers, they're all still doing really well. And they've probably got less people furloughed. So you've got more chance to get through to them.
Yeah, agreed.
Right. So if we focus on the captive audience at the moment, I just wanted to kind of give you a bit of an insight into what's happening into all these platforms at the moment. But so not only has social media skyrocketed the amount of people that are on these platforms, but also it's kind of the way that they are engaging with these networks. So there's currently these people are having new behaviors. And I think that just needs to be taken into consideration when sending these marketing campaigns. Now, what I mean by that is, it's not necessarily just about what time they're on social media, because obviously they're not traveling to work like they would normally. So they're going to be on, if they used to have a long commute, they now might be on social media a lot more. So they'll be on social at different times, but also they're using these different channels for different information. So here's just a little bit about what I've learned. So what I've observed really. So LinkedIn, for example, LinkedIn's traffic has remained relatively steady. And that's probably because people, like I said, are working from home. They have more free time. There's no commute or long lunches. So some of this time will be spent on LinkedIn, checking up on colleagues and friends and whatnot. But on the other hand, there are obviously all those people that have been furloughed or looking for employment. So they will also be active on LinkedIn. Facebook, they have they published their Q4 performance update, and they showed that the number of daily active users had increased by 1.66 billion, and that was forecasted to increase further, and I feel like it's near 2 billion now. Twitter has become more of a go-to resource for real-time information, and it's people are going on there to find out information from like politicians, doctors, scientists. So it's a great platform to utilize right now. And then Instagram, no surprise, traffic has increased on Instagram by 15%. And also the amount of people using conferencing tools like Zoom. So that's up 50%, like we're using Zoom now. So I think maybe just bear in mind when you are sending these marketing campaigns out that you're using the right platforms for your message. Facebook, for example, is based more around creating your brand and your personality for your business, whereas LinkedIn is definitely more B2B. I know that you specifically focus on LinkedIn, don't you, Tim?
Yeah, LinkedIn is our go-to social platform of choice, and we've actually tried Facebook and we've tried advertising on Facebook, and it didn't work for what we're trying to gain. Video content on LinkedIn is really useful. Everything we write in terms of blogs or articles for other publications always get published on LinkedIn. It's been a really useful time to reconnect with people. It's also a time to build new connections, which you've got more time to do. What I notice when I kind of scroll through my feed is there are people that are using it far too much. People that are literally, I'm seeing multiple times a day post content out. And that, for me personally, is a turn off. I would rather see good quality content come out slightly less frequency, with slightly less frequency, and it be something that I'm actually interested in reading. And I'll come on a bit later and talk about what we've done around proactive social marketing using LinkedIn in particular, which we've also found very effective.
Yeah, perfect. Excellent. Yeah, I totally agree. It's saturated sometimes, isn't it? And then you just kind of switch off. So it's always best to make sure that the content you are putting out is key and focused, and just, don't overdo it.
The good thing is it's very easy to remove a connection. And therefore, I would encourage people to do that periodically, because otherwise you don't actually have time to sift out the good content from the bad and the good connections from the bad.
Yeah, that is very true. Right, so enough about the current situation. If we go on to our creating a structured plan, and so the first thing that I wanted to cover in regards to a structured plan is KPIs. So, and this will kind of help you outline the amount of effort you need to put in to your marketing to try and understand what you're likely to get out. So first of all, we're going to speak about GP growth. I've got 3 KPIs that I'd like you to focus on, but first one, GP growth. So as an example, I'm going to use an example because I think it's easier to explain. So as an example, if we take a £1 million turnover MSP with a 40% profit margin, that would give us 400k GP for the business in that year. And let's say that we want to double the growth of that GP. So therefore we would need another 200 GP. So the total GP growth required would be 200k. So now if we have to divide this 200k by the average GP per customer, so let's just say we have 100 customers to make the math simple, and that means that it's 10k per annum of spend per customer. And if we take our 40% profit margin, that makes it 4k per customer. So our simple calculation here is 200k growth required divided by 4k GP per customer. And this means that we will have to obtain 50 new customers in order to hit our target. Now, this is a good calculation because it not only allows you to understand how many new customers you need in order to hit your target, but it also allows you to think about whether it's achievable or not. So in this example, you would need to bring on around 4 to 5 new customers a month. And I do this at every MSP I've ever worked at. I always do this from the off because I need to know how much money I need to spend on marketing in order to get these leads in. Like, what do I need to do to make sure that I hit this target? So, right, the next one is a sales qualified lead. So obviously we need to hit our 50 new customers within that year. And now we need to try and understand how many sales qualified leads we need to obtain in order to get those 50 new customers. So here it's quite easy. So new customers needed, that's simple, 50. And then what we do is we divide it by the closing ratio of your sales team. So whilst every MSP, and myself included, would like to think that if a lead came in, it would result in a sale, it doesn't always work like that, as we all know. So I'd say on average, the closing ratio is probably between 1 in 3 or 1 in 4. But if we go with 1 in 4, so what we do here is you do 50 divided by 0.25, and that means we need to create 200 sales qualified leads in order to hit target. So that's around, 16 to 20 leads, sales qualified leads that you need to get in every month in this example. So, and then on to the next slide. Now, how much is a lead worth? So this is a useful KPI because it allows you to think about the value of a lead and how we're willing to spend, how much money you're willing to spend on marketing in order to create the delivery. So the first bit we've already calculated. So we have an average GP per customer of 4k. And then we times it by the average number of years that you retain your customers. Well, I know it varies, it can vary, but I believe in the MSP industry that we can agree that customers are quite sticky. Now, in all of the MSPs I've worked for, it's on average, it's probably around 8 years, but in an effort to keep it simple, what I've done here is I've put 3 years because that's probably the length of the average contract value. So if we times 4k by 3 years, that means you would get an average lifetime value GP per customer of 12k. So this is just really to bear in mind that if every lead that you could potentially bring in could be worth £12,000. So it's kind of trying to justify what you are willing to spend on your marketing in order to hit this target. And, this is I know, for example, that TaylorMade's average spend per customer was probably around 40k. Now, obviously, when you first get a customer on board, we would probably only sell them 10 hours worth of block time. We'd probably do some sort of strategic review, and then you'd move on to selling in more services and building that trust. But on average, over the lifetime, it would be, for that year, actually, it would always work out as around anything between 30 and 40k. So, even if they do come in as even a small customer that have just paid, £1,000 or something, if you build on that, you can always, get them up to quite a big, sizable, sticky client. So it's just worth thinking about. I don't know if you've used this technique before, Tim.
Well, I think one of the good things about sort of maximizing the lifetime value of a customer is actually just having a really simple matrix of all of your customers going down column A, and all the various products and services you provide going across the columns.
Yeah.
And actually working out what you've spoken to a customer about, and what customer takes, and actually gives you an ability to quite easily track the white space that you've got within your client base. And that's one way of helping you maximize the lifetime value of a client. I think the focus here is obviously marketing KPIs. Some of these sales people KPIs, sales team KPIs, I think are really important. The old adage of what gets measured gets done, I think is so true in any business. It is absolutely critical to have KPIs in a sales team. That could be activity levels, could be the level of cover ratio, so the amount of pipeline salesperson's got against their target. I would generally look in a new business salesperson to have at least a 3 times cover ratio. So if their target is, just to use round numbers, 10k, then they need to have at least 30k as a minimum in their pipeline in the next 3 months, so months 1, 2, 3, for them to have any chance, I think, of hitting their number. And this you end up by just getting away from this generic term busy. How's it going? When you ask a salesperson, or frankly, a lot of business people, a lot of people that run MSPs, yeah, I'm really busy. That means absolutely nothing. You have to be able to measure what that busyness relates to, and good KPIs is the way to do it.
Yeah, definitely. No, that is so true. And I think also the relationship between the marketing and the sales department, we know that not all marketing qualified leads do turn into sales qualified leads, but it's always best to track them, and having those KPIs in place allows you to, have something tangible to, look at every time you meet.
Yeah, so, I think we're going to come on later to talk about sales follow-up.
Yes.
And I guess my intro to that would be the best salespeople have a good handle on their KPIs and a great relationship with marketing, which we'll come on and talk about.
Yes. So step 2 would be benchmarking your business. So the second step, it's always great to understand where you currently sit against other MSPs, especially in regards to the operational maturity. I know here we're kind of putting MSPs into boxes, and which, there's probably a mix at all levels. Sorry, I just admit someone. But it's great to try and align yourself with one of these, because then you've got somewhere to work towards. I know that you found this slide quite interesting, Tim.
I think this is a really great summary, and I would urge everyone to pay particular attention to this slide, and also the next slide around the marketing maturity, which I think are really good structures for you to be able to think about what your business is going to do to be different. So from the inception of Aura, having worked in a number of different MSPs and technology businesses that focused on SMEs in general, we focused on I suppose the 3 areas here being proactive, service, and value as being the main differentiators for Aura Technology. So there are 3 things in particular. We wanted to make sure that we engage with mid-market businesses only. So we didn't want to deal with small companies. So 50 users was our starting place, and is now really the absolute minimum we go for. Secondly, we wanted to provide a proactive engineering offering within our solution. So, we build time in every month to be able to deliver a proactive offering to our clients. And thirdly, we wanted to engage strategically with our clients. And we do that through a process we call the Aura Technology Roadmap. And customers can't really engage with us as Aura unless they go through that process as an initial part of what we do. And that is a chargeable piece of strategic consultancy around technology use that we then review on a quarterly basis with that organization. And so this really resonated for me. And I suppose the proactive piece I've discussed, the value comes from the strategic relationships that we have with our clients. And the third piece is the level 3 piece, which is that IT as a service is offered on a fixed price per head per month. That really bundles in everything that an organization could need from a proactive and a reactive point of view, including security. And anyone that's seen me present around the sort of 10 key disciplines of what drives a good MSP success will hear me go into more detail around these areas, because I'm very passionate about this structure.
Yeah, that's a great point, Tim. And I think, you know, quite a lot of the MSPs probably do sit within the proactive and the service kind of delivery for the operational side. But I find that in regards to the marketing, it's more reactive and proactive.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if that's what you've found in MSPs that you've worked with before. And
I have, and one of the things I also do in addition to Aura is I run a consultancy called Your Big Picture that consults with a number of MSPs, and I see that a lot. You know, one of the first things you have to get, I have to get involved with is good governance at board level, good governance in terms of planning, and great governance in terms of a sales and marketing plan is generally missing in most MSPs, and I think this slide and the following slide, and then what we're going to come on to in terms of the plan, you know, if you really think and focus on how you can execute these things, I think you're going to be a significantly more proactive MSP than the majority of the marketplace.
Definitely. And it's worth saying, like, just, you know, even if you find yourself in reactive or a proactive in the marketing maturity level, even if you were to, you know, as long as you've got a goal in mind and you can start pulling, you know, start scheduling some of those marketing, or, you know, putting a marketing budget together and thinking about what are we going to start scheduling for the next 3 months or the next year, that, you know, it's just something to work towards. So yeah, this is a great slide to just to kind of benchmark yourself, and then you know where your starting point is. So on to step 3. So prioritizing customer listening. So this is all about analysis, and obviously due to COVID-19, customers' needs are evolving on an ongoing basis. And to be honest, now more than ever, it's really important that you start listening to your customers and like using tactics to do that. So there are a few ways to do this. So whether you can monitor their social media channels, like such as LinkedIn, see what they're liking, commenting, sharing, but also it's listening to your sales and customer service teams, because they're speaking to them on a regular basis. So they'll know what their frustrations are. They'll know what their products they're, you know, looking to purchase. And like I said previously, it's really is about fine tuning your content efforts, and it's really just aligning it to what you're hearing from your customers. Like, you know, you might have already created a plan and have all of these great ideas to promote a range of different services that you provide, but if it's not what the customer is actually looking for right now, it's just going to fall on deaf ears. So maybe just think of doing this little bit of analysis will allow you to really hit home, or really, like, you know, tune into what your customers need.
Yeah, the way, one of the ways that we do this is, you know, everything here I agree with. The way that we get most value in terms of listening to what's going on within a customer and also within their market is again, we revisit that technology roadmap that we've done with one of our clients on a monthly basis from a service perspective, but on a quarterly basis from a strategic perspective, and that normally needs at least one of the sort of sponsor directors involved in those discussions. And the insight you get from that in terms of what's going on in their market obviously helps you market to that sector and find more business within that market and really understand the value that you've added to that particular organization. But it just, you know, it always informs us around where there are development opportunities within that account. And I think that's a really important thing. You know, people need to be able to go out and listen to and ask great questions, and listen to the answers. And I'd really recommend a book by a guy called Andrew Sobel, Sobel, which is called Power Questions. And that's a great resource. I'll drop a link into the chat. That's a great resource for just being able to open up discussions and ask great questions, that enable you to then listen to some good quality answers.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds great, for sure. And that moves us on to our next slide, really, which is personalization. So, you know, you've done all the analysis that you know, about what sort of content you're going to start sending out to your customers, what they need at the moment. And then really it's just personalizing it to match their individual needs. Now, I can't stress enough that when sending targeted marketing campaigns, it's always best to personalize the content. So personalizing your content lifts revenues by 5 to 15%, which is massive. And at the most basic level, you really need to be putting at least their first name and emails and whatnot. But there are quite a lot of advanced businesses out there that focus on industry, the language used, logos and whatnot, like I've laid out here. But what I mean by that is, if you're going to send a legal campaign, let's say a legal email out, make sure that you're writing in like legal sector and solicitors, and using the fact that that is their industry, using language that they're likely to use, but also including some logos of, say, some of their competitors that you might already be working with, and testimonials from them. I know that, it's just building that trust, building that, I don't know, what's the word, Tim? Like, you do this quite a bit, don't you?
Yeah, to me, the word I'm going to use a lot throughout this is focus. So, it shows, if you do this level of personalization, it's going to help you leverage the success that you've had with organizations through case studies, through testimonial quotes, through showing that you really understand that particular industry. And one of the industries we first engaged in was the commercial property sector. And that's been a really useful way for us to network and our way into other organizations within that space, and also develop the relationship with our existing customers in that market, because they can see that we understand their particular sector. So I think it comes back to understand what it is you're looking for, whether it could be industry, it could be a particular location, it could be a particular size, it could be other sources of focus. But if you really genuinely understand those, it's going to be very easy for you to demonstrate that through personalization.
And I think that leads us quite nicely onto this slide.
Yeah.
We were talking about this earlier, Tim, weren't we? That, the best place to start, it really is creating a persona for each of your target audiences that you're trying to contact, because it allows you to be really focused in your message.
Yeah, it does. And as you know, at TaylorMade, we did a persona mapping exercise within the legal market in advance of writing a white paper, and we came up with this persona. His nickname was Peter Persona, and it really enabled us to kind of encapsulate all the various aspects of the ideal buyer in the legal market that we wanted to go after. And just like this is kind of really simple way to understand the goals, the frustrations, the pain areas that they have, and the likely background of someone in that market. We have then evolved that, as well as doing that in marketing terms. We've also evolved that in our roadmaps. So we use personas as well in terms of understanding different people's and different departments' use of technology. So, the use of technology from a road warrior salesperson in a particular sector is going to be very different to the finance team or the manufacturing team. And actually building personas out, which the end customer will never have done, is a really good way to kind of illustrate the fact that their users have different needs of technology.
Yeah, and that goes the same for selling, I guess, as well, because in this example here, I've used an IT director, and this person doesn't want the cheapest deal. He doesn't want to have, something quite picture orientated and just sell me this with a couple of figures. They probably want, all of the detail. They're really cautious. They want to make sure they're putting in the right product. So it's making sure that you tailor your sales, your marketing, and what technologies you're providing based on who you're speaking to.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that people have got such limited time that the messaging, particularly around people's frustrations, has got to come across really quickly and very clearly, because that's probably the thing that's going to resonate with them most.
Yeah, and that brings us quite nicely onto this slide, actually. So here I've pulled a couple of MSPs here that I've just pulled off LinkedIn, and they're doing a really good job at the moment. And I just think, GCI, for example, on the left, they focused specifically on the frustrations and fears of the business. So are you prepared? Prevent and detect attacks, and it's just it's just a great way to try and get people to click on, because obviously as the end user, they're like, well, of course I want to be prepared, of course I want to protect my business. And then on the right we've got Olive Communications, and they've specifically focused on a legal sector. And some of the words that they've used, it's saying, do you want to shape the law firm of the future? Well, yeah, of course they do. So they're more likely to click on these because they are personalized. So even if you're not doing it, via an email where you're specifically saying their name, you can still personalize it with other areas like fears and motivations, goals, and their industry and whatnot.
Yeah, as I said to you earlier, I don't think we're doing this well enough, actually. And there are two good examples here of MSPs that are doing it well. I think one of the things that I've noticed, just as a sort of tangent on this, is that people from a variety of sectors want to go to events like this. And when we get back to real world events, they want to go to them because it gives them network opportunities. It enables them to learn from other sectors and from their peer group within their sector. And I think that's not to be underestimated in terms of, I think people will be keen to get back to doing real world face-to-face events quite quickly once they can.
Yeah, hopefully.
One day.
Yeah, one day, yeah. So moving on. So now step 5, where to focus your marketing efforts. So really it's just being realistic is what I want to say, really, because it is all about content, but we need to be realistic in what we can achieve in a short period of time. Now, rather than say a 5-page white paper, it's probably best to write a blog, because time is of the essence. You want to be quite reactive right now because of what's happening, and the needs of the people are changing. So you don't want to have to, write War and Peace in like a 5-6 page white paper when really it takes longer. It would take way longer. So definitely write a blog, and like instead of deploying like an ebook, maybe conduct a one-off polling on social media or LinkedIn, or like deliver a webinar. And I want you to realize that you don't have to create this content yourself. So you could host a panel of experts on a webinar, or seek out high quality third-party content and put that on social media. But I, for one, know that there's quite a lot of vendors that are out there that are willing to help. If you wanted, for example, if you wanted InBay to present, you wanted to put an event together and you wanted us to come in as a guest speaker, we'd be more than happy to do that, and that there wouldn't be a cost at all. So and I think, like, what do you think, Tim? Do you do a lot of your own content, or do you get third parties to help out?
Well, we do both. Our PR agency help us with some of the original content based on some of the themes that we give them, but most of it we do ourselves. We use it in multiple locations. So if we write something for a business magazine or technology magazine, that's used on social. It's published to sort of other organizations that might find it relevant. As I said, around social, it's just really important that the content is quality over the volume. So, blogs, events, press releases, articles, they've just got to be of the right standard. Otherwise, you will start to detract from your reputation. I think webinars are obviously huge at the moment. And this is the second one I'm involved in delivering this week. And actually, I'm attending 2 others that have been put on by our accountancy firm. One around how you bring people back into the workplace successfully during the pandemic and afterwards, and one just around how to build value in the business by using data successfully. Those are webinars I would not normally have the ability to attend due to time constraints, and the amount of travel I do. And that's obviously a great opportunity. I think that the important thing around content, and I know we're going to come on and talk about outbound content, is that it focuses on the messages that they are going to want to listen to. And the worst content I read that's been written by MSPs is content that refers to the acronym MSP, for example. It refers to, technical jargon, and it talks far too much about the things that are brilliant about that business. And most decision makers just don't give a monkeys about that at that point. They want to read something that's going to add value. So, interrupting them from whatever else they're doing by talking about pain points, by pain statements, by experience of a particular market, a particular geography, etc., are the things that are going to be hooked onto, and then having a great call to action around that, that gives people the ability to go and do something, is where we've seen outbound work well, particularly in terms of proactive social media marketing.
Yeah, and that kind of brings us on to this. So the quick wins coming out of COVID. So you do a lot of LinkedIn sponsored content, don't you, Tim? And
yeah, we do, and we use one of the areas we do outsource is social marketing, where it's just a very simple invitation to connect with a good quality message, very short, and then a very, very simple, inobtrusive follow-up message that basically comes from me and allows people to connect with me and very quickly come back if there's something that resonates and is of interest. It's not pushy. It's very simple. It's very cost effective. And I think LinkedIn marketing in particular is a growing area that probably has taken over from the kind of old school telemarketing approach, and is particularly useful at the moment because people are far more likely to see an email or LinkedIn message and respond to that than they are, I think, to take a call. Calls will work to a degree, but I think that's a bit old hat.
Yeah, no, I do agree. It's always been a struggle in every MSP that I've worked for, actually. The likelihood of you getting through, if you make 100 calls a day, let's say, you probably only get through to around 15 decision makers. And of those decision makers, maybe 1 in 200 would be likely to meet, but then it would usually get cancelled or delayed. And, it's just that, isn't it? So yeah, it's great that you can use LinkedIn in that new way to try and gain new business. It's great.
And I think some of the things that you could start a conversation with someone on LinkedIn and have that pinging back and forth on email, and actually you can do a lot of the engagement via email. And some of the phrases that we found have worked particularly well in things like, typically the sort of companies that come to us do so because of, and then kind of mention, 2 or 3 pain points that we typically see in a market, in a size of business, in a geography. Describe the kind of pain points that are most commonly seen, and you've immediately found some common ground if they have those pain points, and they're far more likely to engage. They don't need to be saying to you, we've got a review of our IT supplier at the moment. That will come in due course if it's relevant to them, but you're engaging them in conversation that doesn't need to wait for you to have a physical face-to-face coffee with them.
Yeah, you're building that relationship, aren't you? And I think it's all about that.
Yeah.
And now more than ever, everyone feels like they're in the same boat. So you've got, like you said, you reached out to somebody that you haven't spoken to in a couple of years, and now you've had a chat with them and you're likely to do business with them. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's obviously working. What I will say is, I'll just give you a handy tip here. So when I do, when I've got some really good content and I want to make sure that I get the absolute utmost coverage, and reach, I would sometimes send out a link to that piece of social on LinkedIn to the whole business and get them all to go to like or share or comment on it, because then you've just if I've sent that to 160 people, out of that maybe 40 of them might get involved, but it's just those little tips to help you try and push that content that little bit further.
Yeah. I think that, great calls to action are key. So, and also just having lots of different sources of places that are interested in that good quality content that are going to be relevant.
Yeah.
So, that, for example, if you're targeting the legal market, There are lots of business publications that will be relevant and could get read. There are lots of online and still physical publications that are specifically addressing the legal market and the legal technology market. That you should always have a really good media list or content list of places that you can get your content distributed to.
Definitely. And it's just, I guess, being like following them as well. So when something comes up that you can comment on, it's other people noticing that you're commenting on those parts.
Yeah.
To build those relationships and whatnot. So so definitely some quick wins to come out of COVID, paid adverts for sure, and also outbound emails. And obviously it's focusing on the database that you currently have. So, focus on sending out your content, but also giving them something back and tailoring it to what is happening with, how you can help that business. So that brings us on to relevant topics. So what sort of content you need to start sending out. So I guess most of your content on your topics and whatnot will come out from your customer listening, but here's just a couple that we've put together. The main one being remote working, and these remote home workers will no doubt have a number of security issues too that the businesses just haven't factored in. So try and offer solutions to combat their problems, and just always refer back to how are you helping. And what I've done here is on the right hand side is just put a couple of examples of how to present that content. I don't know if this is what you're seeing in the industry at the moment, Tim.
I think we saw a few weeks ago, maybe during the beginning of lockdown, a bit of a flurry of people using the whole remote working theme a lot. I think security is always going to be relevant, and it's an evolving theme. So I think that's very good. I think remote working is good. I'm seeing a lot of content around how to successfully and safely and legally bring people back into the workplace, if that's what people are starting to think about. So I think one of the things that I think could be a good topic, and maybe it answers one of the questions that's been posted, is what's going to happen to travel time, and whether the world's just going to return to normal and what it was before. And I think that's quite an interesting debate. My personal view is I don't think it is going to return to the way it was before, because I think people now have understood how much more productive they can be by being at home and working remotely. And actually, I think there'll be far more balance built in by people having a balance of some time in an office, some time face-to-face, and probably using Teams and Zoom a lot more for customer meetings that mean you don't have to wait weeks to get into someone's diary. You could do a half-hour Zoom or Teams meeting with someone before you actually get face-to-face with them. And that's a huge opportunity to deal with more people more efficiently. And I think that the whole areas of remote working and new ways of working is also a really good topic.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And then I think I've put some examples here, actually, just some, just the way to present your content, really. So whether or not you're doing, a title with quite a detailed description and links, but just, or just imagery, but just make sure that you're just making it personalized, but also like on the right hand image here where it says 6 ways to, I think it's great that it says it's a 4-minute read.
Yeah. That's really handy. And actually, I'm far more drawn to that one on the right than I am the one in the middle.
Yeah, I agree.
Looks really wordy, even if there are obviously lots of words in the 4-minute read. I suspect you're probably going to find that that's much more laid out in the form of short paragraphs and bullet points, with maybe some images, than it is a very wordy document like that people aren't going to have time to read. Yeah,
and I think like you say, but saying that every person is different. You might have someone that wants a document, like wants an image like that on the right, or someone that actually quite likes reading content. But I personally would be the same as Tim. I'd definitely go for the 6 ways to, because like you say, 4-minute reads, I'm like, I've got 4 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's just something to think about.
Yeah.
Right, so that leads us on to step 8, which is creating a campaign. Now, we've spoken a lot about, how to create your content and what to push it out on what platform and whatnot, but it's just wanted to reiterate really that once you've sent out this content, it needs to come back to your website. It needs to go to a landing page. That landing page probably needs to include some of the language that you've used within that social media post, or that email. And then on the landing page, you need to put a call to action. They need to fill out a form or something where they, and usually the best way to do that for them to fill out a form is for you to give something to them for free. So whether it's a recorded video or an invite to an event or a webinar that you've got coming up, or a downloadable blog or document. But yeah, don't just push out all this social media and these emails and not think about the call to action. The call to action is key. Where is it going after that? What are you trying to achieve? Do you want them to fill out a form to get all of their details, or do you want them to attend an event? Like, it's, yeah, I just wanted to lay it out really, just so you got an idea.
I think it's a good way to lay it out, Francis, and the point around very clear, simple calls to action that take people through to a really short form that captures, 3 or 4 items of contact detail and very quickly gets them the content that they want is the way to do it. The last thing people want, and this drives me crazy when I try and get on someone's Wi-Fi, for example, and I've got to fill out, a 20-question form to get on. It's similar in the world of landing pages and forms. It's just horrendous if it's very long. So keep it really short and simple, and people will think positively of your brand as a result.
Definitely. And then that leads us quite nicely onto a sales follow-up. So, I've seen it happen many times. Marketing departments will create all these marketing qualified leads, and then nothing comes of it. So I just suggest maybe like a weekly meeting with the sales team, understanding so you can understand if there is any potential sales coming from those marketing qualified leads and sales qualified leads. You just don't want all of your efforts going to waste, really. It's definitely your key area, Tim, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I just see this, not work well the majority of the time. And, salespeople are generally crying out for leads, and it's probably the most often heard excuse for why someone is behind target is, well, I just don't have enough leads. And there's an element of the response to that is, well, what are you doing to generate your own? But I think that those people I see that are over target and are smashing their numbers are those people who have got the best relationship with marketing, that do the follow-up, that are on those leads quickly, are following them up professionally, whether it's on the phone or in writing via email, and making sure that the feedback is then given to marketing, because that's really important. And again, you hear constantly marketing managers crying out for what happened. We can't improve the leads until we actually know what the quality was like, what's wrong with the leads, where did that one fall down, and making sure that things sort of go back into the hopper for, if it wasn't right now, when will it be right, and making sure that they're captured somewhere within the CRM and have got some activities scheduled for them.
Yeah, and that kind of is like explaining here, like you just said, Tim, about tracking at every stage and making sure that when you followed up, if they're not if they're not necessarily wanting to buy now, putting them back in and remarketing to them. So last slide, definitely key, tracking those results at all stages.
It is, because some of the best and biggest value opportunities are those where someone's been patient and someone's been tenacious in consistently following up at the right time. And I think that's really important. Just because it's not right for the next 3 months doesn't mean it won't be right in 12 or 18 months, and that could turn into a substantial opportunity. But whether it's the Microsoft CRM or Salesforce, or just using the CRM functionality in something like HubSpot, it is, again, those people that are using them day in, day out, so that, when you say to them as a salesperson, is your pipeline up to date? Where is your pipeline at? They go, well, yeah, it's up to date. Not, oh God, once a month I've got to go in and do this ball ache of updating my pipeline. It should just be up to date, and activities for the salespeople should be driven partly on the leads they're getting from marketing.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. So that's our 10 steps. We've put them together here, and then so definitely take this away and utilize this within the business for sure. I follow these 10 steps at every MSP that I've ever worked for. It's a great structure to use, and I'm sure, like you say, Tim, you do a lot of this as well. So
yeah, and as I say, just to revisit the point at the beginning, that this is great. This is a great structure to use, and this is a great time where people have got the space to do this. This absolutely goes in the important but not urgent category that all of us as leaders of MSPs should be doing right now.
yeah, definitely. So that's pretty much it from us. I just wanted to summarize and just give you a few takeaways really from this situation. So just a little recap of what we've spoken about. So number one, always do your research and listen to your customer. Two, try not to write War and Peace. Try and create short, sharp content considering the current situation. Three, make sure you personalize that content. Four, focus on topics that help your customers. That is absolutely key. Try not to just talk about selling your services. You need to try and hone in on their fears and their motivations, their goals. And then six, always create a campaign plan. I've missed five. Sorry. So five, just skip that one. So yeah, so five, try and work out what a lead is worth to you before you move forward, because you need to have a goal in mind. You need to be able to hit those KPIs. Always create a campaign plan. So know that if you're putting out social media or emails and whatnot, that it's coming back to a landing page and you're having those call to actions completed. Always track the results and always follow up, and then make sure that if they're not ready to sell now, then they will be later on. So definitely remarket to those businesses. And to be honest, that is pretty much it from us. So does anyone have any questions?
Can I just come in with one further thought?
Yeah.
Just jump back one, Francis.
Oh yeah.
I think that the really important thing here is around 7 and 8. If you do the first 6, you've actually got to know what's working, and therefore you have to measure it.
Yeah.
And the ROI and ultimately, marketing activities have got to deliver a return, and you'll only know that if you're tracking it and if you're including the cost, and then you're measuring what happened in terms of what business is generated. But it doesn't matter if it's not working. Just if it's not working, work out why it's not working and try something different. And you can only do that if you're measuring it.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a good point, because when you send, for example, let's just say I'm trying to win a piece of business from a specific client, and they've attended numerous events, they've downloaded documents, they've read blogs and whatnot. Just because they've done that final thing that's made them convert into a lead doesn't mean that that's the thing that worked. It's obviously all of everything that you've done to get that person to that point. And you wouldn't know that if you hadn't tracked it and hadn't worked out what their journey has been, and then you can tweak it to make sure you're more likely to get people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I don't know if anyone has any other questions. I know we had one in the middle that that Tim's answered. So if there's any others, please do let us know.
Don't be shy.
One thing I think we talked on our prep call earlier, Francis, it was about using vendor content.
Yes, we did.
Which,
yes.
I think we work closely, as I know, a number of network group members with people like Datto, and I think that the disties, whether you're an MSP, and I certainly took this away from my previous telecoms experience before I really moved into the IT space, is you can get some really good content that you can repurpose. And Datto, I just think, are brilliant at giving you access to tools like their ransomware guide and ransomware survey that you can white label, brand as your own, and it's a really good piece of content. And don't be frightened to ask them if you can repurpose some content if they haven't said it specifically for use. Those can they save you a fortune, they save you time, and I really would think about using that wherever you can, really. But don't ignore the disties. The disties are producing content as well, as are people like Microsoft. So use whatever you can.
Yeah, definitely. And that is a good point to say, because I contacted Datto this week actually and asked for a specific quote because I wasn't happy with what they had put together, and they've signed it off. So, anything you want really.
There is a question here, Francis, that's come in from
Oh, yes.
Chris at Broken Stones, and the question is, how do you make yourself stand out with the vendor content so you avoid becoming the same as everyone else?
Well, what we do, what I've done previously is I've just taken the content, reworded it slightly, and then put a whole different design around it, so it looks as though it's ours. So you don't necessarily have to just put your logo on their document. They're quite happy for you to chop and change it and move it around, and then you can make it as though it's yours. So that's one way of doing it, I would suggest.
I think that's a really good point. Other ways are things like using it for the purposes of other content. You could use it for a discussion on a video. You could use it for a webinar.
Yeah.
Building other content around the core vendor piece of content will help you sweat that asset far more.
Yeah.
And obviously tailoring it to you is going to at least give the impression that you're going to, it's your content. But the other thing is just a simple answer to that question from Chris is just use it. So many people don't even use it. And that's going to differentiate you just by doing that.
Yeah, it's so true, because I actually don't think there's many people that are using it as much as they should.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
Thanks very much for that, Tim. Yep.
I think one of the difficulties that many MSP owners have is we don't have a marketing team. And so it's another thing to try and get out. It's another part of our time. It's another thing we don't really, even with this content available to us, and I see it all the time, actually becomes a bit of guilt. I'm not using it, and I'm not able to do it, because if I do that, I'm not doing the other thing. I think it was Tim, someone said about us all being busy at the beginning. And I think one of the key things that picked up from there is follow-up. And I know that, we getting leads and getting these things in, not following up and not getting the quote back is a real struggle at times, because we're juggling. So it's a bit of a tough thing for an MSP at a certain growth level to be able to think, I have to market, understand what they drop at the same time as doing that.
Look, I know, and I've been there, and it's very similar to kind of product management and focus around the products and service portfolio. Marketing is in a similar category to me, is that it often falls down the list. What I would say is do something. Spend some time and structure a small amount of time from you as the business leader to other people in your organization, if you can't afford a dedicated marketing resource at this point. But also, if you can't do it in-house straight away, then use agencies. Get a good marketing agency that could do some work for you to take some of this forwards is a way to mean that it's not entirely on your shoulders. And you could start that from a relatively modest cost, because they're not going to be full-time.
Yeah. And to be honest, quite a lot of the time when if you were to create a blog, for example, you wouldn't just put one post on social media and that would be it done. You could do multiple social media posts on that one blog, but you just pull different pieces of content out of that one document. So, it's not, you've therefore got like a whole host of information that you can share, and it's all coming back to that one piece of content that you've created.
I think it's been a great presentation, by the way, I should say. And I think what I'm likely to do with this is get the recording from Mr. Tulip. Now he's had his illegal haircut, and pass it on to my team, because I think maybe one of the things I need to do is share that amongst my team, share the responsibility. And the good thing, what business owners are good at doing, is taking on everything and not giving out. So I think there's been a lot of really good food for thought in this content.
Well, I'm sure Francis will, as I am, be happy to be contacted by anyone who wants any further input. So, feel free to make contact with me if you'd like to. We've had some really nice feedback on the chat. So, from my perspective, I'd like to thank Inbay for inviting me on it, and it's been great to be involved with Network Group. So, thank you.
No, it's great. I think it's really good to get some valuable just what's happening at the moment for Aura and what you've seen, and it's great to hear that. And it doesn't, like you said at the start, it's not a preach that you're doing it the best, because there have been times during this presentation where you've said we're not actually doing that as well as we should be.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great. It's been really helpful. Thanks, Tim.
Good.
Can I say thank you to Matt, Francis, and Tim, and on behalf of the group and the attendees, absolutely brilliant, really well done, and we've got that feedback there, which is great. We will share the information around. Can I just a call to action actually? Inmay are a new partner of ours. They've not come here to pitch. I think they're a perfect partner because they get that we're about good content, about sharing, about helping. It's that sort of ethos. They're the sort of people we want in our room, right? So we look forward to having them in our forthcoming program of events, and maybe there's opportunity to revisit some of these things here as well. Maybe there's a session we can create to dive deeper, whether that's with or without Tim, or with Francis, whether it may be, but I'd love to maybe explore that further because I think there's some appetite there. So can I just say again, thank you. Let's be ready for that Slack channel. Look at the content that's there, guys, and reach out to these people over the coming weeks, or certainly as we engage in July, to see what they've got to offer, because that's what people want to work with. So thank you very much.